Yeah. Okay. Well, I had to fix my camera when I have a chance, but I think today you guys just have to, just listen to me. No video. Don't show this again. Your meeting is being recorded. Uh, I think we have to record during the lecture. The speaker might not like it. Okay. Did I record it? Mm. Okay. Shoot. Okay. Gallery. Okay. Let me go work it out. This. Oh, yeah. Mm. Mm. Okay. So our guest speaker tonight is Sean. So if you guys see his name, let me know, okay? I'm busy looking at the figure out my camera. How's everyone tonight?
Hanging in there. Good.
Well, hopefully you guys have a good day and have a chance to grab some dinner already. And right
You
now,
too.
yeah, my dinner is gonna be at 10 o'clock after class.
I should probably snack on that protein bar I pulled out.
There you go. That's a great idea.
Professor, did you say you have still having issues with your camera rotation?
Yeah. You have any
So
suggestion?
if what I was looking at, I'm actually trying to figure out how to make a different background, but
Mm.
with that, I went to settings, video, and in the top right corner of the actual like where the video is displaying your face, you'll see a rotate
Okay. So hold on.
button.
Let me go. Hold on. Go back to the full. So you're saying like go to more, go to. I don't see the. Oh, here, video setting. Okay.
And where you see your face, the image that's the display in that camera display, you'll see at the top right corner of that screen, it says rotate.
Oh, okay. I did that. Oh, there you go. Okay. You guys can see me now, right?
Hey. Yes. Yes.
Okay, good, good, good. Okay. Let's just slide that. Okay. Um, And then I need your guys' help. So a lot of time I'm busy like moderating the speaker and kind of looking at the Q&A section. So sometimes like there could be student in the lobby waiting to admit. If you see anybody joining the class, just kind of call it out so I can admit them, okay? So if you see anybody in the wait room, please let me know. Yeah, thanks, Jason.
Interesting. Oh, I was testing out one of the features in the settings for iOS or iPad OS, and I guess you could raise your hand and it'll recognize it.
Oh,
And if you hold it up,
it changed it to a hand?
hey,
Oh, cute. Okay.
cool.
See all the technology. Okay. Let's see if Sean is here yet. I did tell him to join at 7:10, so give us like 10 minutes to catch up. Um,
But it's on.
I'm gonna have to change the setting next week to allow everybody come in so I don't have to monitor the the weight room. Okay, let me let me okay, there's still a little bit time, so let's give them some time. Okay, it is kind of 7 o'clock. So while we're waiting for the speaker to join, I want to kind of like allow some time for the student to see if anybody have any questions. I think that I posted the questions from the guest speaker #1 last week on Canvas. So are there any question? Anybody have any difficulty in uploading the response?
One question for our responses, does it exactly have to be within 50, 100 words? Or is a little bit over fine?
Yeah, it's just a guide, so it
Okay.
doesn't have to be exact. Uh-huh.
I have a question regarding the assignment.
Sure.
Did you want to upload it as a Word doc or just kind of a text into the text box? Is there a preference that you have?
Very good question. I would like to have it as a Word doc, and make sure you put your name on it. A lot of time when I read it, if I don't know who it is, I can assign a grade to. So please put your name on the paper you upload into Canvas. Okay.
One of the questions is regarding the emerging technologies that were discussed. Do we have to list everything he talked about, or can we just pick specific ones?
You can pick specific one and have about 50, elaborate a little bit what you heard and what your thought process is, and, put it about 50 word or so. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay, any other questions? Okay. So, we're gonna have the guest speaker, Sean. I wait for him to join. before I do the introduction. And then after that, I do want to, I don't know if you guys have a chance to see the cybersecurity and awareness poster content. I think it's a great opportunity if you can make it, because there are cash reward behind it too. So if you make to the first if you get the first prize, it's $1,500. Second is $1,250, and third prize is $1,000, right? Fourth prize is $750, and fifth is $500. You can actually do it with your friends, as a team. You don't have to do it by yourself. And there are some requirements. I participated on some of those poster content before. It's very interesting. I mean, at the end of the day, you just have to follow the guideline. And if your poster gets selected, you just show up to the date, and there will be a couple of judge walk around, and then you kind of present your poster. So I think it's a great opportunity. I hope some of you will be able to maximize it. Are there any
Thank
questions
you.
on that? And the person who in charge with the cybersecurity and awareness poster content this year, Dan Manson, he's actually my professor. So FYI, he has been with Cal Poly for a long, long time. He actually retired and come back and to help out with this cybersecurity and awareness poster content. He was also in charge of the cybersecurity competition in the past. So if you want to kind of participate in the cybersecurity, I think they call it cybersecurity uh, defense contact or something like that. And it is essentially is competition from different campuses. Like each campus will select a team of people and they participate. Cal, Cal Poly Pomona has been running that content for many years. And I think the reason why we're so strong is year over year, I think that whatever we learn from last year get passed down to this year. So I think they have a playbook with all the potential vulnerability, the threat. So when they do that cybersecurity competition, so it's just like showing the process of how you apply the technique to identify, detect the vulnerability. What is the process you have in place to patch or remediate those vulnerability and get the system back to operational again. So I think it's a fun opportunity and a very rewarding type of competition. Like I say, we've been winning it for year over year. So there's a lot of good information passed it down. So if you guys have the time and be able to participate, I strongly recommend you to sign up for that as well. If you have questions, by all means, ask Dr. Dan Manson. He was managing that competition for many years. Any question on the cybersecurity and awareness poster content?
Excuse me, yeah, what was the name of the professor again?
Dr. Dan Manson.
Thank you.
Daniel Manson, yeah. I say he's my professor too, so. Okay. Okay, so Sean is gonna be calling in. He's gonna be joining shortly. So I have to update myself when I introduce Sean because he has been with KPMG for many years, but when he joined KPMG is when I left KPMG, so you can tell how I am. So Okay, he's joining. Okay. Hey, Sean. Yeah, if you guys want to turn on your camera, that'll be great too. Sean, where are you? Say something so I can find you.
Hey Amanda, how's it going?
Good. Where are you? Hold on. Let me find you.
Is my camera working okay?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay.
Awesome.
Oh, here, I found you now, Sean. Okay, let me make you co-host as well in case you want to present anything. But anyway, well, thank you again, Sean, for joining the class. We're excited. And I told the students that once I introduce you, they probably will know how old I am. So um, so I actually enrolled in this program as well and graduated from this MSBA program, MSIS program. So when I graduated from this program, I started my career with KPMG, and I was there for 12 years. And right before I leave, that's when Sean joined KPMG. And he used to be a coach for my son's tennis team. So you can see, how far back we went, and how I am. But Sean, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, no, thank you for that introduction, Amanda. It's a real pleasure to be here back actually, and thank you, Amanda, for inviting me to your class. It's a real pleasure to be with you all today. My name is Sean Molianto. I'm a managing director in our technology risk practice based out here in Los Angeles. And primarily, my specialty is around IT operational audits, IT SOX, any type of IT risk advisory type of consulting is primarily what I lead. So yeah, maybe you can do some backwards math. Yeah, when Amanda actually left the firm, I was an associate actually, and I've been with the firm for 16 years. So maybe maybe you can do some backwards math there, Amanda. Sorry, I kind of gave the answer away. But no, I'm really happy to be here to answer any questions and to yeah, just really engage in the class.
Yeah, so I think that we will open up to see if students have any questions for Sean before we kind of go to some of the question I have. But please, if you have any question, please leverage this opportunity. Like Sean said, he been with the Big Four for 16 years. He see a lot, and he been to how many company you've been to? Probably, you can't even count. So it's fast paced. He definitely is like on the edge of the technology, because as a consulting company, he had to be on top and he had to be familiar with all the new technology. So I will let you guys ask question first. Go ahead.
Okay, I have a question regarding your work experience. What kind of audits do you normally do in terms of like IT audits, financial audits? What's your scope, or what do you normally do day to day?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Ray. So I started my career actually doing mostly IT audit, really supporting the external audit side, right? So back in the day, and I'm sure Amanda would remember this, like our firm was called, or at least our practice was called IT advisory. And we would primarily be focused on IT SOX audits from a financial statement audit perspective. So I did that about 5 or 7 years, let's say 5 to 6 years. And then with my 7th year, I actually moved and transitioned to more of the consulting side. And so from there, we're more doing, audits, more operational audits. So it can be things like business continuity, disaster recovery, right? Cyber is such a huge hot topic, right? That a lot of companies are standing up their BCDR program. Another big thing actually now with the introduction of AI and data analytics is really like data governance, right? So how are you managing data, throughout the environment, its life cycle, right? What systems are you using, et cetera? So it could be a slew range of different IT operational audits. I was just doing this is Amanda's wheelhouse, is like third-party risk, right? So a lot of threat vectors, right, in cyber are coming through not only just from the organization, but really the third parties that help those organizations, right? Either credentials or things get lost and stolen there, then they get infected, right? So third party is a big one as well. But yeah, those are just some quick examples.
So, Sean, could you explain your current role?
Yeah. So my current role, so I'm a managing director in our practice, and right now my role is really a people role. It's really helping my practice grow, right, from a people development perspective, right? So I'm in charge of helping deploy trainings, right, recruiting, making sure that we have all our needs from a skills and development perspective. But I'm also responsible for growing the business, right? So I'm a leader in our technology risk practice, primarily in the IT SOX field. So my job is really to go to market, really kind of understand client needs, go to proposals, things like that to bring in business to KPMG. I think depending on where you're at, right, in your career at the Big Four, as Amanda is saying, is very fast paced. You're going to be doing different kind of wearing different hats around that stage. But primarily right now, it's just a leadership, kind of growing the practice type role.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, Sean, did you actually work with Steven's son also?
I did. Stevenson was actually one of my mentors and a great guy that I still talk to every today. In fact, I was one of the groomsmen at his wedding. So yes, I still talk to
That's
Stevenson
cool.
to this very day. Yeah. Steven's son, just for the class, he was ex KPMGer as well, and he was a senior associate actually when I started the firm. So I think he was in the firm about 3 years in, and I believe he worked with you as well, Amanda, for a little
Yeah.
bit. So
Yeah. So Steven has a very different, like slightly different background than Sean. I think Steven, after the Big Four, he decided to go to do internal audit.
yep,
And once he does the internal audit, he said, well, remember the story he shared is that he did so well, the security manager asking him to go and become a security engineer to kind of help building the risk and control to fulfill the audit need. So from there, now it's more focused on GRC. So
right.
he's all over. But Sean is slightly different. Like Sean said, like he's more like leader in the space of the IT risk, IT audit now. He's more focused on developing people and getting, building up his portfolio. So
That's a good segue too, right? Because, we all started in the same kind of firm, KPMG, and I think it's a great place. I mean, I'm going to sound like a marketer here, right? And but it's true. I think I really do believe it. KPMG is a great place to start your career. It really is, because if you don't know exactly where you're going or what you want to do, KPMG really allows you to experience all different types of industries, people, right, technologies, etc. And to Amanda's point, right, like Stephen found a real skill set and a niche in security. Yeah, and he's one of the smartest guys I know in terms of that piece. And he was able to then kind of pivot off to a different company and industry and really help lead their GRC practice, right? There's lots of alumni that have done that. I mean, Amanda herself has been really successful in that place as well, right? Pivoting her career from KPMG and then going to East West Bank, developing right third party there. So it's we all have that experience, but if it was KPMG as the base, right, that helped develop that skill set. And for me right now as a MD in the practice, I'm still learning, by the way. I'm like, as Amanda said, it's I feel like in 16 years, I'm still learning something new, and I'm still what we call a student of the firm, right? I mean, I'm still learning about all the different things that we're doing. And I myself, as a practitioner, has to be up to date, right, with the latest technology. But primarily speaking, yeah, like it's great. I love it. I love it. I know I'm saying like I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but I really do love what I do. So
Another question I have for you, Sean. Did you join the KPMG with any certifications already, or you just kind of
good
graduated?
question. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I'll dive a little bit into my career history with KPMG and kind of how I started. So I actually started, Ray, as an intern, so I had no credentials whatsoever. And funny enough, my background was in business economics and accounting, so I didn't even have an IT background. Funny enough, but back in the day, I was really heavily involved in Student Accounting Society, and I was able to actually land a couple of networking roles, right, within the firm. So meet the firms, things like that. And I was able to kind of network with some professionals. And at the time, I didn't really want to do like audit, right, but I wanted to do more consulting work. And so I know KPMG back in the day was recruiting in their IT advisory department as an intern. So I said, kind of scratched my head. I was like, oh, I'm curious, I could probably learn IT or some of the technical bits, which I eventually did. After actually I graduated, I kind of took, I would say, I think extension classes, right, on IT and whatnot. But I got an internship at KPMG, did pretty well there, and then I started full time as an associate and have been there ever since. So, I think what's exciting about it is you don't necessarily have to have certs or all these, technical credentials right off the bat, although it's nice to have, right? It makes you have a competitive edge, but it's not something that you have to have. I didn't have it, and then I got my CISA, as I progressed through the firm.
Yeah, I don't know if still the requirement, but I think when I was there, at least for all before, I think for the for people to move up to a manager role, I think like a CISA or some type of certification typically is kind of required. So I don't know
Yeah.
if they still the kind of like the rule.
Yeah, it's kind of like that's a good point, right? I know in the audit side, like if you want to be a manager specifically for financial statement audit, you have to have a CPA. Like it's required. They won't promote you unless you have a CPA. In the IT advisory type world, especially specifically now in our technology risk practice, it's kind of like an unspoken rule still. I think you're right, Amanda. Like most of the managers, if I think about it right now, and the directors and above, at least have one type of certification, whether it be a CISA, a CISSP, right? Or some type of ISACA type of certification alongside with other, credentials, right? Whether you're a specialist in Azure, AWS, whatever have you, right? So
I have a question. Sorry, Blake. I'll pitch real fast.
Sorry.
Sean, do you notice that at the entry level, are you looking or filtering out for those certs?
you know what? At the entry level, and when I say entry level, I'm thinking like maybe like college hire, right? Or new hire. Not necessarily. I think what we're primarily focusing on is what your background is in terms of your education. I know technology risk right now is really focused on MIS, right? Majors, anything with information security, right? So I think now with the way they're recruiting now, I probably would have not gotten the job just based upon my credentials because I was a BizEcon. But I know something with an IT background is what we look for specifically within technology risk, right? Now that's just to say if you don't have that, it's not like it's a deal breaker, right? I think you just have to go through a little more hoops, right, from a networking perspective to get through the door. But primarily speaking, that's what we're looking for. Now, if you are experienced, let's just say you have a year or two of experience outside and you're not a new hire at a college, I think that's when certs are probably going to be a lot more we're looking at, right? Like for example, if you're looking at someone in industry that has been in a company doing, IT support or whatnot, and they want to get into the technology field doing, audit or consulting, that's when certifications like a CISA or something like that, or CISM, right, will be really helpful.
Right on, thank you.
Just to piggyback on what people are saying about the tools you might use for a security operations center, what are some I guess popular tools that you would use to do an audit per se, or for data governance or for security operations centers? Because I'm sure different auditing companies use different platforms. What are some of the more popular platforms that you've come across or used?
That's a good question, right? So I think okay, well, let's see, okay. I think one of the audits we're doing was like a CMDB audit. And it was like I think they were using ServiceNow, right, to manage their assets and their configuration items and things like that. Some other tools I think that are good, even from say an identity access management, things like that. SailPoint, right, is a big one, right? What else are my clients using? Yeah, SailPoint is primarily one of the biggest ones that I probably used. Yeah, or I've audited or looked at.
Awesome, thank you.
Another question bouncing off of Blake's. If somebody has no idea on like they have like a ERP background, or like they kind of have an idea on how these softwares work, and then a client's asking you to audit and they're using, or you're auditing a client and you're using these softwares, if somebody doesn't have that background, is there a bit of a flexibility to learn it on the fly? Is that what you're
sure.
expected of?
Yeah, that's a great question too, right? It's like, okay, so I think what I love about KPMG is we have, and let me just say, I think what a differentiator is between a big four, right, and say maybe a smaller firm, just for all you guys that are kind of thinking about, well, like, you know, if I can do consulting, I can also do it at a smaller boutique firm, which is true, by the way, you can totally do that, but you're not probably going to have the level of resources and knowledge transfer, I would say, to learn, I say a big four, right? Not just selling KPMG, but Deloitte, EY, you know, all those folks will have something like what we have, is like a library knowledge of different different ERPs like SAP, Oracle, PeopleSoft, etc. And really kind of like manuals of like, okay, this is what you audit for. This is what you look for. Here's a SQL script, right, to be able to run an extract of all the security profiles, right, within an ERP, right? And you can learn that. Anybody can take a look at it, learn it, and then go to the next day to a client and actually do that, right? I think what's super cool, I don't know actually if a lot of firms are doing this. I know they're starting to, but I know KPMG was actually one of the first forefront to actually use OpenAI. So we actually have our own instance of OpenAI and an LLM that we've secured in our own Microsoft Azure platform. So everything's secure. So whenever we type into anything like that, right, it doesn't go out to public. It's in our own secure private, cloud environment, if you will. And it's basically our own, chat GPT, essentially, right? I can type in there, hey, give me a SQL script, right, to extract that information, and it'll write the script for me, right then and there, right? And strategically wise, what KPMG is doing is we're trying to tie that LLM and train it with other models of what are expected deliverables, our methodologies, things like that across the firm, right? To say, hey, I have a client, say X cap, market cap. These are the systems they employ. These are all the things, like, give me some benchmark data of what KPMG has done as a whole, right, to be able to leverage not only our tools, our knowledge, right, and our skill set. So it's exciting, honestly. It's a great time to to really, I'm excited about that because it's going to open up a lot of opportunities, not only for our new people to learn, right, but also for us to execute in a different way for our clients.
So just sort of piggybacking off of what I think Antonio said, making the environment just more sort of accessible.
Oh, I'm sorry, Zach. I think we cut off for just a second where I didn't get the
Just
question.
basically piggybacking off what Antonio said, just making the environment more accessible right off the bat.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And making it more accessible, but also like just people are able to learn quicker, right? I think that's what AI is really helping us do, is it's really an accelerator, for not only our clients, but also our people within the firm to learn.
I have a quick question for you again. Do you see a rise in businesses utilizing your services just due to the fact of the emergence of cyber threats and also just laws and legislation regarding cybersecurity insurance and things of that nature, how they have to be in compliance with?
Yeah, that's a really great question, actually, and very timely too. The short answer is yes, absolutely, right? The SEC just actually put a law out there where companies have to disclose, right, either through their 8K, right, if a material hack has occurred, right? And what a lot of companies are struggling to do right now is figure out, well, what is material, right? Like, how do I determine materiality? And when you look at the guidance that SEC has put out, it's very broad in nature, honestly, right? They say it's a mixture of both qualitative and quantitative factors, right? So, but how do you measure that? So people like us are going to come in there, right? Help assess their environment, help them build what that framework looks like, and then be able to help implement that into their environment, right? I think now, right, cyber attacks, they've always been dime a dozen, right? They always happen. It's not, I always tell my clients, it's not a matter of if or like when, right? It's just truly like a matter of, sorry, no, it's not an if, it's a when. When is it going to happen, right? And are you ready for it? And then more specifically, right, it's like, Yeah, like are you going to be able to respond to something like that? So yeah, services around the assessment piece, the implementation piece, even the audit piece, right? Regularly certifying that is a huge revenue driver for us as well.
And I'll try to come up with some more questions about business continuity because in my last job I had to build a plan, and it can be very expensive depending on
Oh, for sure.
what you have to do and how many hot
For
and cold
sure.
backups you need. It's crazy.
Yeah. And like if you think about it too, right, from a strategic perspective too, it's like, well, like well, first it probably starts within your BIA, right? A lot of companies are not properly doing a business impact analysis and understanding what are the crown jewels, right? You can't save everything, and if anything, it's very expensive to save everything, right? So like, what are you doing as your first initial steps to be able to do that? Most companies don't even have table stakes of doing that, right? They're more just so reacting, right, versus being proactive and strategic in their approach. So yeah, we do a lot of work around that space as well.
So thank you.
Hmm?
I have a question. So I'm actually not pursuing my the MSIS. I'm pursuing a master's in accounting. So I'm thinking of like going into like audit or like forensics. So where would you say is like the overlap between an IT audit and like a financial audit?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I would say, forensics is a good one. Like, I would say a lot of folks that are in your path, Lynette, are probably going, what they do is like the audit route, right? So they're going to financial statement audit, maybe getting 2 to 5 years of experience there. But I think once you've done your time, if you will, in external audit, which is it's tough, right? I mean, like let's be honest here. Like going to public accounting, doing the audit hours, it's real. It's pretty tough. But I will tell you, I know a lot of colleagues that have started an audit with a master's in accounting, and they're doing some fantastic things right now, right? So some of them are, like you said, in forensics, right? Some of them are doing deal advisory. So deal advisory really kind of deals with acquisitions and helping out with the deal structures on that. Some of them have gone into strategic accounting, right? So we have this accounting advisory type of practice where like very complex accounting transactions, if a CFO or a tax director or somebody needs to kind of help with some type of accounting, revenue recognition, things like that, there and there. So there's lots of paths I would say you can go after the external audit route. And also, not to even say within the firm, but even outside the firm, you can do a lot of things too with that background, right? Controllership, right? VP of accounting and CFO and on. So I would say that's a good route. Now, when it comes to IT, again, I didn't have an IT background, right? I was just like you, if anything. I had a biz econ accounting major. It is pretty rare to find, I would say, someone that can speak both accounting terms and IT. And so I think that's the reason why I think I stayed, was because I understood the accounting, I understood all of that, but I also learned the IT piece, so I'm able to talk both languages.
Thank you so much.
Any other question?
I'll have one more. In terms of the audits that you perform, like with business continuity or like with data governance, I guess how does KPMG monetize that? Like, do you charge per like scan or audit, and then you come up with a report for remediation for that, and then you either bill by the hour or you bill by the size of the project?
Yeah, that's exactly right, right? So like one of the companies that I service is a insurance slash it has a FS component to it. They own a trust, but they're primarily an insurance, but they are regulated by FRB, right? OCC. Amanda, you probably know all of this, right? But like they are under some strict guidelines of they have to assess, right? They have to risk assess their environment, and then based upon that risk assessment, they have to scope in certain areas where they have to look at, right? So yeah, a lot of these audits are, coming off a risk assessment either at the enterprise level or like an IT risk assessment. And then to your point, based upon the scope, we'll say, okay, well, this audit is probably going to take about 600 hours, right? So then it could be like a negotiation at that point with the client, right? Whether it be time and materials, it could be a fixed fee. There's lots of ways to monetize that piece of it.
And that's fascinating too, because as you said before, they need this. Like
Correct.
for whatever other auditing, government backed or whatever. And they
Right.
don't provide that, they can't be in business. So very
Correct.
interesting. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
And what you'll find and realize is certain industries are more regulated now. Like FS, highly regulated. Like they need to have this stuff, right? And then you go like, and it's funny because I service a lot of different industries, and I go into like the retail space, for example, right? Like retail companies are less regulated. They're not really regulated at all. So you'll kind of find that their ERM function, which is called their enterprise risk management function, even their internal audit department is very immature, right? And when it even comes to like, you know, audits of operational nature, they're not even there yet, to be honest, right? And it's to that point, it's kind of a hard sell. They're more just kind of like the block and tackle, like, well, I just went public, so I need SOX. Okay, so let me do SOX, right?
Right.
And then, you know, you kind of build up from there, right? Yeah. So
I was gonna say, yeah, when you go into the companies like that, because I'm familiar with those too, and yeah, when you look at process and procedure, it's like they don't have any, and you're
they
just
don't
like,
even have it. They don't even.
what are you talking?
Yeah.
No SLAs, no nothing like that.
Yep. But then that kind of like helps us too, right, as a firm, when you know they're looking to us. They're like, well, you've seen it in other companies. Well, how can we create policies and procedures? How can we create, you know, a second line function, right? How can we create an internal audit department? Things like that. And then you kind of realize like, oh, you know, like I always say, this is a people business. This is not like a services business, because the relationships I develop are more about helping people, which is why I love my job, right? I love helping the people develop in my firm, but also tactically for my clients, I love helping them in general and their issues. And sometimes, depending on the maturity of the client, their issues are a lot more different than, say, an issue of an immature client. And you know, I'm helping them a lot more in different areas than others. But I just, that's what I love, right? So I don't feel like I'm ever selling work. It's more of like, I'm helping you with a problem. Here's a solution, and yes, I get paid for it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Okay. So maybe obviously like Sean, you kind of like in a hiring role. So maybe you can share like what are you typically looking for when you're hiring somebody?
Yeah. So typically, so I'll kind of do it in two kind of like sections. I think the first section is, if you're out of college, and you are a brand new, you know, kind of like a new campus hire is I think what we're calling it, is I would recommend everyone get in touch with like your, you know, meet the firms, kind of like school scheduling, because I do believe we do recruit out of Cal Poly, and I think one of the questions you asked me, even ahead of time, Amanda, was who is that point of contact. So I think I have that point of contact, and I'm happy to share her email with you, Amanda, and you can share with your class. But her name is Megan Johnson. I don't think she's local here in LA, but she's part of that network where we recruit at Cal Poly. So if there's a meet the firms, right, that Cal Poly does, or some type of career event, I highly suggest visiting them, talking to them, and creating that relationship. Because if I'm being honest, like I said, my credentials from an IT perspective were not there. I probably wouldn't have gotten my internship if I didn't create relationships prior. And the only reason why I was able to create relationships is because I would frequent these career events and I would see the same folks, right? I would see the same recruiters. I'm like, oh, hey, you know, hey, Lauren, or hey, you know, Blake, Carol, I think was at the time. And then I don't know if you still remember Blake, but yeah, like, you know, and I would create a relationship. So what we're really looking for at that level, the campus hire, is really just eagerness. It's a willingness to learn. It's an ability to be curious, right? And actually, you know, want to actually, like, yeah, just learn, right? Well, there's not really that much of a bar, right? Other than obviously, you know, GPA. I think there's some GPA requirements, the MIS background, if you have that. But other than that, you're a blank slate. Now, that I would say the best way to kind of get your foot in the door is relationships, right? Now, the second vector I will say is, if you're an experienced hire, so it seems like Blake, you've had some work experience, right? If you are planning to go that route, that means you probably didn't get hired as a campus hire. You probably worked a little bit after college and then want to get your foot in the door at a KPMG. That's where, again, I would not only leverage your relationships that you have within the industry, but then we're probably looking for more, okay, what's your actual tactical experience? So like, I'm picking on you, Blake, sorry, because you're on my screen and you're asking some great questions, but like Blake would have relevant experience, right? So like, if we're talking about business continuity, right, disaster recovery, those are some of the things that, those type of skill sets, audit, right, controls, risk, those are some of the skill sets that we're looking for, right? So really easily aligning yourself with the ISACA, honestly, is a great resource. I mean, Amanda and I both serve on the board in LA, and they have a lot of things, right? The CISA, the C-Risk, right? The CISM, right? Even the cyber, I think, certification is great. So any of those credentials will get your foot in the door at a Big Four.
Perfect. So thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Hmm?
What about like when is the campus recruiting timeline? So
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I would say historically there was a specific timeline, but I actually just reached out to my recruiting team, and we actually hire on a rolling basis. So there's no timeline. And maybe what I can do actually really quickly is share. Maybe I can share my screen. I think you
Yep.
created you.
Yeah. I made you
Okay.
co-host, so you should be able to share.
So let me see if I'm able to share one of my screens here. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
It's coming up. Is it double? Okay, yeah. Early career. We see it now.
Yes. Okay. So there's a website that I was directed by my recruiting team. This is a good website for you to think about, because it probably will answer your questions way better than I can. But it talks about campus recruiting, right? So how they hire, right, etc. And then here's like internship programs, things like that you can. So here's kind of the different vectors, right? You have a pre-internship program, which is new actually to me, but I think we actually even start at the sophomore level where they do like leadership programs. And these are programs where they're not like full-time hires, but they kind of get you in the system early on, right? So you go in as a sophomore, right? I think it's like a day or two. They kind of shadow some folks. You kind of learn about our culture, the firm, right? And then that kind of sets you up, kind of gives you an edge for internship programs, because internships are very competitive actually, right? We normally only have, at least in the tech risk side, there's only probably like 2 or 3 intern offers for between LA and Orange County. So extremely competitive. And that was across, all of Southern California, right? So all the colleges out here, only 3 spots. So, but getting a pre-internship program will probably get you a leg up there. But then after the internship, we also have full-time careers, right? And then full-time offers are a lot more, I don't want to say they're easier, but like there's a lot more openings than say an internship opening, right? And you can kind of explore opportunities there. And I was just kind of playing around here. Like, so, I think Lynette was asking about audit, right? Audit would probably be an area that you probably want to focus on. For me, I'm part of advisory. So, if you click into advisory, you can kind of, do advisory jobs search, right? So I think if you go here, here's all our openings, right? So it's like not like a, hey, here's like the month of recruiting. It's literally like rolling, it's ongoing, right? So if I just, say, okay, well, I'm interested in California, right? These are the current openings, I think, as it sits right now. Oops, that's weird. Oh, this is for early career, is that why? Okay, so here we go, experience, right? So these are the ones. I think you know what? This might be filtered incorrectly because I just did this one real quick, and this is what I found earlier. So like, there's like, yeah, so maybe it was a different filter, but these are like associates, right? Audit intern, tax intern, right? Here's like your scholar interns, and they all are in the different locations too, right? That kind of show that. So yeah, so this is like probably a good place to start, right? And I can share the link with you, Amanda, to share with the class. I'll send an email with you with the recruiter information, a link to this that you guys can kind of explore and click around.
Thank you. Any questions for Sean?
I have a question. He referenced Meet a Firm. Is that an online resource or is that only in person?
Oh, that's a good question, actually, Anthony. See, now I'm kind of feeling like I'm aging myself. Like back in the day, that used to be like an in-person thing, right? Like you would have like a career fair, right? Meet the Firms was what it was called in my schools. I went to UCLA, so that's what they would call it. Cal Poly might call it different. They might call it career night. I'm not too sure what the term is. Do you recall, Amanda, if there's like a career night or Meet the Firms?
Yeah. Yeah, I think Cal Poly still have it. Like it's one of those like career I think career date where they have
Okay,
like
yeah,
different meet the firm. So all the different firm will be there, have a booth, and then you can
yep,
walk
exactly.
around and
Yep.
I think Sean wasn't you like when you're at Cal Poly you're like one of the student president that you kind of like coordinate that event or something?
Yes, that's right. That's right. I think I helped coordinate. I didn't, unfortunately, I couldn't attend, but yes, I remember that. So like normally what they'll have is some type of like it's really like a fair, like a job fair
Yeah, it's
essentially, right?
job
All the
fair.
different companies will be at that fair where you can kind of like, essentially say hi to recruiters, take a look at their brochure information and kind of see what's out there. Now, today, I don't know if they do it virtually. It's possible, right? Because since the pandemic, a lot of things have been more virtual nowadays. But I would check with your local, chapter there.
I'm sorry to cut in,
Thank
but
you.
for Meet the Firms, it is happening on September 25th at Cal Poly, so it's in person.
There we go.
It's from 5 to 8:30.
There we go. Nice.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Lynette.
Thank you.
There we go. I mean, yeah, so I highly recommend Anthony in class, right? Attend that, right? I think that's one of the biggest biggest things. Like if you miss out on that, you potentially miss out on networking or getting to know your local recruiters. Because if I'm being honest, right, like if a resume shows up on my desk and it's a name, but if another resume shows up and it's Anthony, right, or Lynette, and I know and I've talked to you guys in class, I'm more willing to take that person for an interview than the person that I have no idea what their resume name is, right? Just from a relationship standpoint.
Also, sorry, on if you want to go to Meet the Firms, you have to sign up for it and you have to go on Handshake. And also you can follow KPMG on there as well because I have Megan Johnson, like the recruiter, she
Oh,
sends
you
like
do? Okay, there we go.
yeah. So she sends emails of different like recruiting events that's like happening. I think there was like a virtual career fair that took place in September 13, but I think the next big one should be Meet the Firms.
So see, like that right there is exactly like what gets somebody hired, right? It's like you can connect the dots in the sense, well, and it's because what I was gonna say was, Megan Johnson, or at least that name at least, right? Lynette, you may have never met her, but you know that name. So guess what? And all of you guys, right? This is kind of free advice for everybody here in this class, is you can go up to Megan on that career day and say, "Hi, my name is Lynette. By the way, Sham Lianto from KPMG presented my class. I'm really interested in blah blah blah," right? And Megan's gonna know me because I was just talking to Megan today saying I'm presenting in a class at Cal Poly, right? So automatically you already have this connection, this rapport that you've built, right? Just based on that, right? Now that's a leg up, honestly, right, guys? You guys have an advantage being in Amanda's class and her being an alumni at KPMG because not everyone's gonna have that, right? So
Jason, you have your hands up. Go ahead.
Hi, Sean. Jason Fricaro. Thank you so much for meeting with us tonight and taking time out of your schedule. Really do appreciate it. What can you speak to about red team and blue team at KPMG?
Ooh. So I can't speak very intelligently about it, although I do know that we do it. I will have to probably get you a cyber specialist to be able to do it. But essentially, we do clients do red team, blue team exercises, right? So for example, if they are wanting to stand up their security program and essentially they want us to kind of help them run that, we can certainly do that. So but yes, something that we do offer as a service as well. I just can't, technically talk about it as intelligent as a subject matter expert. But great question, Jason.
Thank you, sir.
You had mentioned resumes earlier and them coming across your desk. Are cover letters also a big thing in this industry?
That's a good question. I think for campus hires, I've seen cover letters as well. But for experience hires, not so much. But I think for new hires, it does help, right? To have a cover letter.
Thank you.
Hmm?
Okay. Well, what are some of the advice you can give to the students who kind of want to go into this IT advisory, IT audit career path?
Um, let's see. Well, some general advice I would say is, um, when I was an intern, I think some of the best advice that I got as an intern, was, Sean, no matter no matter what level you are, right? Whether you're an intern or you're a partner, always have a positive attitude and try to do things with a smile, right? And I think, one of the partners, actually, sorry, at the time, he was actually, Amanda, you know him, Andrew Ellis. He was a manager, I think, at the time when he hired me. He's a director, but I don't know if you know this, man. He's like a national partner now. He's like
Wow.
our FS. He's high up there. But
Wow.
anyways, Andrew told me, Sean, sometimes interns come in there with this attitude of, well, I have a degree, or I'm going to get a degree. I'm very highly educated. I'm very technical. I know this, but why are you making me get coffee? Or why are you making me do a photocopy, right? I know they don't do photocopies anymore, but like back then we used to make copies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I know. Now I'm aging myself, right? But yeah, like but it's like, you know what? He told me, Sean, I can train you in technical terms. I can train you, right, in red team, blue team, right? Jason was asking, right? I can, and anybody can learn, right, if they really want to, but I can't change your attitude. I really can't, right? And if I'm working with you 60, 70, 80 hours a week, I have to work with you. I want to make sure I'm working with someone that I can actually enjoy as well. So I think that has, I think for me, um, been a lesson, right? To learn and to carry over through my career. It's like, look, you're going to be asked to do things maybe sometimes that you don't necessarily feel like is a value add, or, it's what you want to do. But if you have a good attitude, people are going to want to work with you, right? And they're going to want to support you. They're going to help you in your career, right? I think another piece of advice that I got that was really great that I still, to this day also, use is just be a sponge, continue to learn, right? No matter how senior you are, how junior you are, there's always going to be something to learn, especially in the field of technology, right? Technology gets stale, right? Pretty quickly, right? I was doing a whole mass of research of AI and AI governance 6 months ago, and what I'm learning now is completely different than it was 6 months ago because the technology is rapidly changing, right? So be a sponge, continue to learn, and I know that's very broad, but those two pieces of advice, I think for me, have carried me a long way through my career.
Okay. What are some of the qualification do you think that you know, uh, we need to have to become successful in this field? Obviously, that you say attitude, networking, and
I would say, I think those are the basics, right? Those are table stakes, right? Yeah, networking, right? Being able to present, right? Confidence, but I would say some core skills to learn, right? Really is risk, right? Risk management is actually a big core skill set that is being utilized, because when we go back to our clients, we always say, what's the risk, right? How to quantify risk, the difference between qualitative risks, right? Quantitative risks, right? How to deal with that structure. I would say controls testing and understanding controls in general is actually a good foundational skill set as well. So that probably spans with audit, specifically, but controls is a good thing to learn as well. And then on top of that, I would say find a ERP system that you like and just learn it. We have what we call GRC specialists, right? So specific Oracle specialists, SAP specialists, Workday, and so forth. And you can build a whole career just from that too. So learning a specialty in a system and an ERP is actually a good skill set as well.
Quick question. Like, do you have like some key or good top tier ERPs? Because there's a lot out there.
Yeah, there's a lot. Most of my clients are using Oracle, SAP, Workday, or Microsoft Dynamics. Those are the big ones, right? I have some smaller clients who are using like smaller ones like Great Plains, JDE, right? NetSuite. But a lot of the times, like for me, where I learned kind of more my specialty is around Oracle. Like Oracle has kind of helped me build my career. I have a lot of other folks that have really just core SAP skills. SAP is a big one too. So
I did a little bit of Oracle and I vaguely remember using SQL. Are you doing that on your like day-to-day stuff?
I would say SQL, I mean, it's good to actually learn SQL, right? Because then you're gonna be pulling a lot of like user security roles, things like that from SQL. If you run SQL scripts, things like that. I personally don't interact with SQL day to day. I think maybe at the staff level, maybe they're more interacting with that. But then even then, with tools like our advisor GPT, it almost like writes the statements for you now. So it's good to kind of understand at a high level, right? But you don't have to be an expert. I think that's a key thing too, right? I want to make sure it's clear is while there's different career paths, I would say at KPMG too, right? Where it's like you can really be a subject matter expert. Like, I mean, know every single configuration, every detail of a system and go that route. And we call them lead specialists, right? And then you could have more of my career, which is a broader career where you kind of know a little bit of everything, right? You're a jack of all trades. My knowledge is probably like this deep, right? Versus an SME, which is like this deep, right? And it's like I can talk about Oracle, I can talk about certain things in Workday, things like that, but I'm more of a generalist, right? In that sense. So I don't necessarily know, with Jason, right? I can talk briefly about red team, blue team, but if you ask me exactly like, okay, what are the steps and procedures? What are the material? What are like what's the SOP? Like then I'm just going to lead you to my lead specialist, right? So yeah, so I think that's the general consensus.
I appreciate you taking the general route.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of like security focused folk here too. Do you guys have any question for Sean? I mean, he has a lot of career experience. Leverage this opportunity.
Could I ask a question? So CrowdStrike, what was that like for you? Did it really affect you and your customers when it went down? I know it's a popular
Yeah, that's a good one. I have an interesting story about that one too. So the short of the answer is most of my clients didn't have a large impact across. I think most the majority that got hit was obviously United, right? The airports. It's funny, like a lot of my clients got impacted, but it was very minimal. They were able to source it. But I think what was cool about KPMG was, and I don't know if y'all knew this, but we actually partnered with CrowdStrike. So when the issue happened, and I was going to remember the date because it was on my birthday, July 19th. It's actually when everything happened, right? The partners actually got together with CrowdStrike and we said, you know what? A lot of companies are hit by this. We can help remediate your issues, right? We can either set up your servers or do all of this, right? So we actually did a small engagement with CrowdStrike, helping with their customers. And then CrowdStrike liked us so much that they said, you know what, KPMG, we're going to just outsource all these remediations to you. So it was cool. Like we had this broad announcement to all the partners and MDs saying, hey, reach out to your clients because technically if they're impacted, we as KPMG can do the work for free to the client. They're like basically CrowdStrike is going to pay our bill for us. So I wasn't part of these engagements, but what I've heard is some folks on the East Coast had engagements where they went in, they helped stand up all the servers, right, get them up back and running, and then essentially the client, we did it for free to the client, but basically CrowdStrike paid us to essentially go out there and do it. So that was pretty cool.
Wow, cool story. Yeah, didn't know that. It's pretty awesome. Thank you.
Hi, Sean. Jason again. So you said your birthday is July 19th. What was the name of your first pet, and what is your mother's maiden last name?
You know
I'm
what?
just
Yeah.
kidding.
So my birthday is July 19th. My first pet, I think, was a dog. And my mother's maiden name is Hassan. So you're gonna use all that information now to hack me, right? Or to like do some type of breach. No, but like no, just a little personal stuff about me outside of work. Yeah, I'm an avid. I love animals. I have 3 dogs at home, and a cat. So I got 4 animals in the house. I'm a big car guy. I love cars. So outside of work, I actually do some semi-professional, if you will. I mean, more so amateur racing on the racetrack. So there's like certain racetracks out here in Southern California where I compete in a certain race class. So I'm a gearhead. I love cars. I love working on them, building them, you name it. So yeah, it's just a little personal info about me.
I have a question. I'm also really into cars. What type of like did you do any like specific modifications, and if so, like for which vehicle?
Yeah, so Mustafa, the question you're gonna ask is which car. So, but the
Yeah.
answer is yes above, right? So, yeah, so I on an amateur spec level, I race a Honda S2000, and it's in a street
Okay.
class. So
Okay.
in that particular instance, you're only allowed to modify to a certain extent. But I have like
Yeah.
suspension, brakes, basic, mods, right? Your headers, exhaust, right? That's pretty much it. So that's what they allow
Yeah.
is that. But I have other cars that I've heavily modified from, adding turbochargers, superchargers, things like that, and
Yeah.
other cars I just kind of mess around with.
Yeah. I had an eye. I kind of was limited on what I had to put in it as well. But what tracks have you been to Bud and Willow?
Yes, I do
Or
Bunwell a lot.
yes.
Yep,
Okay.
Bunwell, and I've
Same.
done it in different configurations too. There's like I think a 25 configuration,
Yeah.
CCW,
Yeah.
right? CW13, things like that. Mazda Speedstar, right? I think there's like configuration 25, I think it is. But yeah, I've done
Yeah.
Bunwell plenty of times.
Okay. Yeah. I just on the CW13 one a lot, so
Nice,
that track.
nice.
Yeah. I like that track a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's very cool. Any other question for Sean?
One around security, like how necessary is like air gapped security, like in terms of like sand storage and things like that? Is that like one of the first things you look at when you do an audit, or
Ah,
in terms of
not necessarily. I would say the first thing in security I would think about is, well, that's broad, right? Like it just depends. I'm gonna give you a consulting answer, Blake. It depends, right? It
Right.
depends on your environment and depends on like where your risk really lies, right? Like I have some clients that are dealing with like they don't even have table stakes, like their whole like passwords, everything's all like screwed up, right? Where like they're not even, following policies around that, right? And then you have other companies that are, financial ratings, which are very, very highly advanced. So their risks and their tolerance for risk is going to be a lot more different than a client where they have nothing, right? So yeah, so I think that's, it just depends on the client situation, and you assess it from there.
Yeah, because I mean, just your job in itself, 'cause, a lot of places don't see IT as a necessary thing. It's like a cost center.
Mm-hmm.
You come back to them, and then it's like, these cost this much to do this on a recurring basis. Like, how can we afford this as a business? And then kind of have to come back. That's
Yeah.
why people skills, right, are very important. The soft skills.
100%. And not only that, but then as I mentioned earlier, like understanding risk and being able to quantify that risk is another skill set, right? Because like to your point, you're gonna get pushback from the bean counters out there, right? The CFOs as well, like I'm not spending, $100,000 on a data center or whatever have you, right? But if you can say, well, if we get breached or attacked, here's the likelihood that this is going to happen. It's pretty high likelihood. And then here's your impact to your business, right? So if you want to be on the news, right, in the Wall Street Journal on the front page and cause reputational damage, right, of X amount, then the CFO is gonna be like, oh, okay, well, I understand now, right? I think it's being able to translate, and to your point, being able to translate that in a way that a business person will understand what the ROI is going to be or what the risk is to the business, but also understand the technical terms of why we need X, right? Solution.
Thank you.
I have one more question. I think you mentioned this in the beginning, but how is it like not coming from like an IT auditing background and going into that type of
Into it was yeah, that's a great question, Len. It was tough. I will tell you, it was tough. I would say my first year was probably one of the most difficult years I had at the firm because the learning curve was just so steep. Like I kid you guys not, when I started as an intern, Amanda, I'm actually a little bit embarrassed. I'm actually really embarrassed to say this, but it's okay. Like we're all friends here, right, guys? I didn't know what a database was, right? When we started, I had no clue. But I will tell you, after work, right, KPMG, so be working our long hours from like 6 to, I think it was like 7 to 8. I would get off work around 8 and I would go to an extension class at 8:30 at UCLA to like 10:30 to take IT classes to understand, right, how infrastructure works, right? And even the language, right? Like database, operating system, box, right? I didn't even know what a box, like what's a box, right? Like things like that. I know Blake still kind of like has a little smirk here, right? Because it's IT talk. It's a whole nother language, right? And I took the time to learn all of that, and it took some time. I would say within 2 to 3 years of the firm, I would say that's kind of when I was collecting my skill set, and then after that, it kind of just made sense, right? And then after that, it was just kind of on the job learning and using the utilities that the firm offers to help accelerate and learn in my career. But I would say it's difficult, but definitely doable, right? As long as you have the hustle.
Plus, now you have the AI software to help you.
Yeah, and see, so Lynette, maybe like the new kind of generation is not as a hard time as I am, because now, yeah, you have AI now, right? You guys can learn everything so quickly.
I wanted to ask really quickly, just could you give an example of how you use AI? Like on
Yeah. So one of the things that we do when we audit is we build something called an audit program, right? And that audit program will look at certain like processes, let's just say, right? Let's talk about, let's just say in data governance, right? Or sorry, data management. We had different process, right? Like how do you manage privacy for data, right? So you have your privacy tab, and then how do you secure your sorry, not secure, how do you secure your data, etc., right? So once you have the processes defined, then you outline kind of like the controls and everything associated with that, right? And you build that, right? You say, well, what are the risks associated with privacy? And then here's the controls, right? So before, that used to be a very manual task and very time consuming, right? You'd have to be like, oh, well, you have to think about it too. Like, oh, do I have a risk register? Like, does the client have something? I have to think of the risks, right? Now you can literally go to AI and be like, hey, what are the top 10 risks for privacy? And then guess what? Create me controls and risks to be able to do that. And they can kind of do that automatically for you. So that's just one example, right?
Wow. And it's pretty accurate on the first go.
No, there's hallucinations. There's definitely hallucinations. We're still in that phase where like it's a thing, right? Like AI is great and all, but you still need to have subject matter experts like, in the area to really validate that it's true. I've had it hallucinate. Like I think I had it try to go back to some FFIC guideline, Amanda. I put some, okay, well, like show me in the FFIC guideline where this kind of like risk exists and how do I, mitigate this. And when I actually double checked it, that guideline never existed. Like he just hallucinated, made something up. Yeah. So yeah, it was like completely off. And I was like, oh, well, good thing I didn't share that with the client, right? So
wow.
But yeah, we're still I think mature. I mean, we're like literally at the tip of the iceberg of like, where we can do this, and it's still very new. But yeah, you can't rely on it 100%, but it does help with a lot of things to accelerate it a little bit.
Awesome.
Okay. Are there any other question for Sean before we're going to thank him? Okay, well, let's get a round of applause to Sean. Sean, thank you so much. This is extremely beneficial and helpful for the students. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, Amanda. Thank you for inviting me to your class. Everyone, it's a real pleasure to meet you. Thank you guys for the interaction and the questions. I welcome it. Feel free to use my name when you guys are talking to, in Meet the Firms and whatnot to Megan. So, but yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you, Amanda. And I'll make sure I send you the information to the link and also the email for Megan. It seems like your class may have it already, but I'll just send it to you just in case.
Okay,
All right?
perfect.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Sean.
All right, thanks everyone. Have a great night. Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's see where we want to go from here. Okay, so I think that one of the things I would like to show it to you guys is Isaka. So obviously, I think like you heard from Steven, you heard from Sean that one of the great place great resource place to find audit program, looking for some type of peer people who done this like in this space already is Isaka. So Isaka, let me share my screen and kind of walk you through and help you understand where to find those audit program. Again, like I say, when you conduct a audit, don't start from the scratch. Like go to Isaka, look for a audit program lies already there, like you can leverage. Again, like just like generative AI, one is that you have to be able to find the information, and second, you really have to read through it and tailor it to what you need, right? Like Sean said, like generative AI is great. If you ask the right question, it literally give you a lot of helpful information, like you don't have to try to find it from multiple sources. It pull all of them into just one place, and but you have to read through it and making sure that the response is what you're looking for. Okay, the same as Isaka, there's hundreds if not thousands of other program out there. So let me share my screen. Share. Okay, which one are you guys seeing now? You see the speaker, isn't it? Okay, hold on. Let me share the other screen. Which one is the one you guys seeing? Uh, do, which screen are you guys seeing right now?
We see your home screen.
Yeah.
My home screen, not Isaka, right? But just
Yeah, your desktop.
blank.
Mm-hmm.
My desktop. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Okay, so let me go to isaka.org. Okay. Okay, so let me minimize this one. So when you go to the Isaka website, obviously, you can sign in. Am I signed in already, or they kicked me out? Okay. Did I not sign in on the other one? Okay. Okay, so for the Isaka membership, as a student, your membership is $25. If you sign up to be a member of the MISA, you're actually going to get it for free. MISA will reimburse or pay for the Isaka membership for you. So I have a student last semester. He's the president of the MISA, so I think he graduated. So I don't know who is the president now for the MISA student club, but you know, you can reach out to that organization, like student club, and they will help sponsor the Isaka membership. So again, like I say, once you go into the Isaka, there is like a lot of different credential certification, and we talk about CISA, system, series, and then as you can see that for those like certification, passing the examination is just one step. You also need to have couple years of experience for you to truly certify. So like Steven say that, or like Sean say that, having a CISA at the beginning as a new student doesn't impact much, but once you kind of like, experience higher is where they kind of like typically look for some type of certification to differentiate yourself versus other applicants. And also, most of the Big Four, for you to kind of like go into a become a manager and above, they typically want to see you have some type of credential, because like you are now going out representing the firm. You are now doing a lot of advisory work. So having a certification truly kind of like call it out your experience, right? So when you're coming to Isaka, there's a tab called resources. When you click on the resources, there's like various different things that you can look at. If you go to resources and you go to resources by topic, this one called IT audit. of course, you can go to AI, cybersecurity, emerging technology, governance, IT risk, privacy, and IT audit. So for this particular class, we're going to go into IT audit first, okay? So when you go into the IT audit, as you can see, there's tons of different type of audit framework audit program that you can download. So there's like AI audit toolkit. If you're auditing AI related type system, if you're auditing a cybersecurity audit program, cybersecurity program, then you can kind of download this cybersecurity audit program. People who doing the information security audit, you can actually using either ISACA cybersecurity audit program to do your IT information security audit, or you can also use the NIST cybersecurity framework itself. So I let you choose which one you want to do. There's also zero trust audit program. So this is more auditing the infrastructure, networking. So when you set up your environment, you started out with zero trust audit program. So that is more like going to advanced audit. There's also cloud platform audit. So obviously this is geared to more like Google cloud audit, but there's going to be Microsoft Azure cloud audit. There's going to be AWS cloud audit. So there's going to be those different cloud provider platform audit program available here. I think there's some student doing the identity and access management audit. Again, you can come here and download the IAM audit program. There's also the machine learning. So machine learning, they have part one focus more on technology and part two focus on compliance, right? So when you do just like AI, when you talk about AI, machine learning, one aspect is the compliance. So how do you address compliance to make sure that the new content, especially for generative AI, the new content created by generative AI, how can we ensure that the graphic, the picture, the content is meeting the compliance requirement? There's physical and environmental security audit. So I think some students are doing physical security audit. So you can actually come here and download the physical and environmental security audit program. There's also database audit. So database audit is focused more either on SQL database, Oracle's database. There's also a mainframe database audit program. This is like code before DevOps. So if you're in the development system development audit, you can come in here and leverage code before DevOps audit program to do your system development lifecycle audit. There's also VPN. Again, we don't cover VPN security here, but this is another audit program you can leverage. And there are just a lot more. On the audit, you can also do a search on the top and search for like what type of like change management. So you can type in change management audit program, right? And then it will kind of give you some of those example of the audit program around change management. So definitely there's tons of audit program out there. See, change management audit program, auditing IT risk associated with change management and application development, file control to consider when auditing a vendor management program, and they kind of go into more change management and cybersecurity and so on. So are there any questions?
Professor, there was a pretty good question in the chat asking if you had to pay the membership to access these audit programs.
So if you become a member of this, most of them are free to the member. So if you're not a member, there's gonna be a cost. So definitely it's not worth it. You should be a member because any of these audit program when you download, the cost is more than become a member. So you see, free to ISACA members.
How are we able to become a member? Is that something we can do on the site?
Yes, like say like you can come to isaka.org and say join, and then you put in student, and it's going to be $25 for the student. But if you want to get your student the $25 fee waived,
yeah.
you just need to go join a MISA.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, and then they will waive the
Thank you.
membership for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know the question in the chat. Are there any other question in the chat?
Is there an ISACA framework resource for the physical security?
Yeah, that's the one we saw
Yeah.
earlier.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, I remember. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So, IT audit, when you go in there, when you click on it, it will take you to the physical and environmental security audit program. Okay. Okay. Any other question on ISACA? Again, I just want to make sure that you guys know where to find some of the audit program. I think ISACA is one of the great place to look for it. And then if you want to go to see ISACA, they have like a couple 100,000 members, and they're in like most of the country, so they're worldwide. Who we are. Okay, 180,000 members. They have 225 chapters worldwide, and they're based in 188 countries. So
Who
you
is
can
it that
see.
was gonna waive the membership fee again?
I think it's MISA. Either MISA
MISA?
or yeah, MISA or the SWIFT. Is there
Yeah, I
another
believe it's
student
missing.
club?
And the president is Allie. Her name is Allie.
Okay, sorry, can you say it louder?
Allie?
Uh. Are you saying like contact Alex?
Allie. ALLY.
Oh, that's the student chapter.
Yes, for the school.
Okay, maybe you can put it in the chat so that the student can see the chapter name, the student chapter, like they can be get involved.
I just sent or actually, let me send it here too.
Mm.
That Discord invite. But yeah, this will link you to Missa's Discord page or Discord chat. I was on eBoard for Missa last year, and yeah, it's a really great organization. I learned a lot being there. I had like a lot of really cool opportunities. I remember you mentioned CSAF earlier. I actually volunteered for CSAF last year. So yeah, a lot of great opportunities within Missa. So please join.
Yeah, so thank you so much for that information. So MISA is the one that will help waive your membership, and I think this who just talked about is that there's a lot of great opportunity for networking and for if you're interested in cybersecurity, IT audit type of career, I think MISA is gonna be great. Student club to join. Okay. Any other question? Okay. If not, then let's get to the lecture for tonight. Let me put this one over. You guys can still see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And let me turn on the recording now. Remote control pause. Where's my recording now? Oh, record. Okay. 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 So I think okay. So again, I think last time we covered the IT audit process, so we kind of went through the processes to conduct an audit, and we talk about regardless of which audit subject like you conducting the audit on, the process is the same, right? So today we'll talk about a little bit about IT governance. So within the IT governance, we're going to be talk about like different processes. So we're going to talk about the management. So within the management, we talk about like different governance process around IT management, what they're looking at. From the strategic planning perspective, we talk about what to look for from the IT budget, planning, how do we ensure that IT is aligned with the corporate strategy, things like that. So strategic planning. From the management issues perspective, this is talking about how do we do issue management? How do we understand what are the issues that we have on hand, and how do we, plan the remediation or plan project to remediate those, right? Issue management. And then what are some of the tools and framework that management can leverage to managing from the IT governance perspective, and some of the techniques? So let's kind of go into detail. From the management perspective, what typically we're looking at, again, this is just basic IT processes, IT governance. So here under management, obviously we look at the, when we look at the management of IT, we look at the project management, we look at how IT managing the project. Is there a project management office in place? Do they do they have a methodology in place to kind of like prioritize and assess different type of IT project, right? Um, Here, some of the IT project management referring to, like, does it align with the project strategy, direction with the sponsor and stakeholder? So again, this is something that if we're conducting a audit around project management, this is something that we look for, right? Do they have a project strategy in place? Is there a project plan for every single project that is being approved? Uh, Within the project, approval, is there a business case? Do they actually documenting how this project align with the business objective or strategy? You know, uh, Another one is looking for, like, do they define and how to managing the project scope, schedule, resource requirement, budget, and optimal financials. So for every single project, we should have a scope, right? So if we don't have a scope, then the project will be, scope free, meaning that the project will never can be end because the stakeholders just want to add more and more requirement. So you cannot, control the project schedule, time, cost if you don't have a scope. So you have to have a well-defined scope. You have to have a schedule, meaning that you have to have a timeline. So a lot of time when you're managing the project, you want to break out the project into different phases. And within each phase, you have to kind of have a milestone. Like phase one, requirement gathering. Phase two, implementation. Phase three, UAT test, whatever it is, right? So you define your different critical milestone and set up a timeline. So once you have that, then you will be able to plan out for the resources. Do you have internal resources needed to managing this project? If you don't have internal resources, do you need to use external resources? So it comes to the budget. So when you look at the budget, you look at both the budget for internal resources and also the external resources, right? Sometimes if the project involved with like some type of technology implementation, then you also need to look at, is there a software component? Is there a hardware component? Is there ongoing maintenance costs? Is there ongoing licensing costs? So those are all different costs that you have to include it in the project budget so that you can get the budget approved. So all these like should be well documented so that a project manager can kind of like managing all those different item. So when we do an audit of project management, we typically look to see if there's a methodology in place for the project that we selected. We want to see if there's a defined project scope, schedule, resource, and budget, right? Project contracts. So here is looking for actually is project control. So looking for like some type of periodic communication reporting. So if your project is a 1 year long, you don't want to have a kickoff and then don't provide any type of update until the end, right? So you need to have like built into your project a regular status update. Could be weekly, could be monthly, could be quarterly, and depending and you want to see like who do you communicate the status update to? Yeah. If you have it to the, the regular team member, maybe you want to have it weekly. If you want to have a update to more like executive management, so it could be monthly or quarterly. So it depending on the need. And then within your status update, you need to make sure that you have a way to track all the project related issue, delay, what are the risks that will, prevent this project to complete uh, the project on time within the budget and with deliver all the scope. So you want to make sure you have, when you conduct the audit, you want to make sure that there's a process in place to managing the issue and risk, and also regular status updates being provided to the relevant stakeholder. Okay. For the procurement, project staffing, and resources perspective, again, like we talked about, in the event that there is like hardware, software, and license involved, we want to see like if there's a proper procurement process in place that this project follow. Right. For the project staffing and resources perspective, we want to see that within the budget, did they budget sufficient internal resources, external resources, maybe even the vendor resources that will help with the implementation, things like that. So those are the things that you typically want to look for when you conduct a project management related audit. Um, Build and organize the project team. So again, like we talk about within the project, we should see you know, a charter and the project team that will be involved within this project. And you could have different team member on different phases of the project. So maybe during the planning phase, you probably want to have more like, the business unit, the architectural person, the network person, the information security person, more like the people who will kind of like provide some high level solution. When it get to the whole design development, then you probably want to get like developer involved. So again, building and organizing your project team and break it out by different phases and the timeline. The next one is the project leadership, effective project decision, and efficient communication. So again, you want to see like, is there a project sponsor? Who is sponsoring this project, right? The project leadership is very important because you need like leadership to help support the project to make sure like your project get the attention it needed and the resources and the budget, right? Make sure that you have a communication plan in place to communicate the project status. Uh, the the communication could include, like we talk about the communication to the team member, the communication to executive management, and it could be, if this project is related to some type of marketing campaign or customer related, then some type of customer communication plan should be in place too. So those are all typically things that you would expect to see when you audit or review project management process. Okay. So uh, go hand in hand when you look at project management lifecycle. We talk about concept and initiation. So here, again, what you're typically looking for when you look at the concept and initiation phase is like project charter. Is there a project charter in place? The project charter typically talk about what is the purpose of this project? What's the scope? Who is the executive sponsor? Who is going to be making the decision, right? So the charter will help define the roles and responsibility. Project initiation. So the project initiation plan will outline what is needed to kick off the project. Um, maybe within the initiation phase, we need to make sure that we have uh, the budget being approved. We have the scope narrowed down and being approved. We have the high level timeline, things like that. Actually, the initiation could just like get it ready to go into the definition and planning. So the definition and planning, this is where you gather more information and truly define your scope. And once you have the scope, then you kind of will be able to estimate what is the cost to implement the project, right? The work breakdown schedule is the one we talk about. It break it down into different phases, and each phase will have the milestone and the task within each of the phases. And then the Gantt chart will help kind of like do a roll bottom up and top down with all the detail activities and start day, end day, and the duration, and be able to the Gantt chart will be very helpful. So like you have a listing of all the activity needed, and it kind of help you to identify the dependency from the different project tasks to one to the other. And so it's very helpful when you kind of do the resource assignment as well. Communication plan that we talk about. You should have a communication plan. If it's customer related, customer impact, then you definitely need to have a communication plan geared toward more customer communication. Otherwise, you want to have a communication plan to internal users, to your stakeholders. Risk management, this is where you kind of want to document and call out all the potential risks that you can see to prevent this project from finishing completely and within a budget and within the time provided, and the quality is there. So the risk management will help identify what are potential risks, and at the same time you want to identify what are some of the alternative or control you can put in place to help minimize and reduce those risks. So risk management is very important to ensure that the project can be completed successfully. So that's phase 2. Now that you have the definition, defined planning, and the budget approved, and all the communication, Gantt chart, timeline, everything ready, now you launch and executing the plan, right? So once you launch and executing the plan, now you need to make sure you have frequent status update and you track your schedule, your budget to make sure like they're on time. Any deviation to the original scope, you want to make sure there's a change request submitted so that you can determine with the additional scope what is the impact to your current schedule, your resources, your budget, right? And you want to kind of like create some type of KPI to monitor and track to make sure that, hey, what are some of the key performance indicator I can track to make sure that the project is being running on time and it's going to be meeting the budget, things like that, right? You can have KPI around the budget. You can have KPI around quality. You can have KPI around the schedule timeframe. Quality, right? So you should have a way to monitor to make sure that the project is being, um, you know, um, implemented or developed it within the quality that you're looking for. So you can put in the QA testing, peer review, things like that. Forecast. So again, based on where you are right now, you want to make sure that you have a way to forecast to see, hey, based on the progress today, based on the issue I have identified and the remaining tasks, am I going to be able to meet the complete the project on time meeting the budget requirement. So if you forecast like you're going to be delayed by a month, 2 months, or you need additional funding, that's when you need to start thinking about submitting the change request to get your the timeline to baseline to the new timeline. And from the budget perspective, you get approval for the additional budget you need. So that's all around launch and execution. So when you conduct the audit around that area, this is typically things that you're looking for. So now that you're done with like the you know, execution, then you go down to the performance and control monitoring. So here again, this is like you're done with the implementation. Now you want to you know, actually implement and start tracking the performance of the new system, right? So here you kind of look at the quality deliverable. Again, UAT testing can help. A number of the defect can help identify the quality of the development. Effort and cost tracking. So here again, it will kind of help. Are we going to be, you know, is there a way to track the cost to make sure that the cost is within budget? So again, when you do auditing, a lot of time auditing something that's already happened, right? So the project, you probably select a project already completed. Or for a large multi-year project, you probably do a in-flight tracking. So again, depending on where the project is at, what phases is at, then you do a quick audit against that project on those completed phases. Okay. And then lastly, once project is done, it's implemented, now you want to close the project. When you close the project, typically what you're looking for, if the project team have done it, is the postmortem. Postmortem is important to understand, you know, to get lessons learned, right? So how are we doing on this project? Are there any area that we can improve on? So postmortem is for us to kind of do lessons learned, so to help improve future project. Okay. Some of the project punch lists, so it kind of help understand like what are the item tasks that are doing well on this project, and then to wrap it up from a reporting perspective, you know, summarize the project. You know, the project was implemented, and you know, there's no issue so far in the last couple months. It has been operating smoothly, or whatever it is. So some type of reporting to close out the project. Okay. So from the project perspective, so we talk about the whole life cycle of the project management, and certain large project involved with like system development life cycle, right? So from the system development life cycle, it's just like a type of a component within the project management. Remember, project management, you're managing the scope, the budget, the timeline, right? And this SDLC is just focused on actually developing the solution, deliver the solution. So this multiple methodology from the development perspective, there could be waterfall. Waterfall is that you go from step 1 to step 2, to step 3, step 4. That's called waterfall, step by step. There's agile scrum. So agile scrum methodology is that a lot of time the project development could be so big, like you say, we want to break it out into different smaller component, and we will have, you know, multiple meeting on different component of the project, and then at the end of the day we can bundle all together. Okay, so it's called agile. It's does not have to go from one phase to another, one component to another. It can be simultaneously, and it's meant for fast delivery. System integration. So sometimes like you have to integrate, you know, into different system, right? Um, you know, if you're developing a online system, that online system might have to integrate with your customer database. It might have to integrate into your, you know, procurement system, whatever it is. So there's like other system integration like you have to consider when you look at SDLC. So here, if it's a waterfall, it going from requirement So you gather all the requirement for this development project, and then you design based on what it is. The design can be agile. You can break it out into multiple component and do the agile methodology. A lot of time when you talk about agile, you actually have a scrum master who kind of facilitate all those different development. And then from design, you go into implementation, right? So within the implementation, you want to add into like UAT testing, make sure that there's test script. A lot of time, I think further down we talk about the before the implementation, there's also like the code scan, meaning like you scan for the code like developed to make sure like there's no backdoor, there's no SQL cross script, things like that. And then once you're ready for implementation, you also want to do a system integration end-to-end type of testing. If the application is web-based, accessible outside of the internet, a lot of time you do need to have an application security assessment as well. The main differences between a code scan within the code level versus the application scan is that the code scan typically scan the code for any type of cross script and backdoor user ID, password, clear text, things like that. Versus the application assessment, typically will look for like vulnerability around which port is open, which communication is being used, things like that. And then it get to verification, verification to make sure that everything runs smoothly. Sometimes like depending on the size of the system, you could have a 3 month parallel run between the new system and the old system, things like that. So verification, uh, post system UAT testing, things like that. Once everything is done, then it go to maintenance. You just start supporting it uh, from the maintenance perspective. So this is all about SDLC. So again, when you do a auditing of the SDLC, you want to see if there's a methodology in place. Does the methodology include those different requirements? Each of the requirement, do they have very clearly defined requirement? And did it take you select a development project and see if it actually followed the SDLC framework. The next one is the quality control or quality assurance. So here we're just kind of going through different type of IT management process and different type of governance or audit that we can conduct around those management processes. Another management process is around the quality control, quality assurance. So we want to see that is there a QA testing team in place? Do they use some type of testing tool to testing the new development? A lot of time when you look at the benefit of the software testing, you want to look at cost effective, right? So I you cannot you know you have to kind of look at your risk and look at the cost and making sure that the cost and the risk is like there's a cost benefit in place. You want to make sure that from the quality control, quality assurance perspective, they address security. So obviously, like we talked about earlier, there's the code scan on the code level, and there's also application security scan from the application level. A lot of times they also call it pen test. From the product quality perspective, you want to kind of, if the QA QC function is in place and do they have a process and checklist and, control to test the quality of the system. And then do they, take in customer satisfactory? Do they conduct survey? This is all part of the quality control, quality assurance team's role. That's what they will be doing, right? Um, do they kind of review the test log or artifact to confirm that indeed the code is being developed correctly? So a lot of the QA testing team, they have some type of software they leverage as well. Okay. So another one is the IT operations and production. This is like the management team that do day-to-day type of operation. This is the team that keep the light on, right? So they are the information processing facility. So they run the job every single day, every single night. They make sure that the job get run complete and accurate. In the old time, sometimes they have a run book, so they follow to make sure like, hey, I have all these like sometimes the job had dependency, right? You have to make sure one job finishes before the other job can finish. So I think from the information processing facility perspective, a lot of times 24/7. So a lot of times they have like a different shift. There people cover the morning, people cover afternoon, and people cover the night shift. So again, depending on the size of the organization, IT operations day to day could include 24/7. IT operations also looking at the data communication, making sure that all the communication is up and the data processing, there's no error. They look at input and output control. So a lot of time, now most of them is system driven, right? So they want to make sure that when the job finished, there's no error, there's no error log. And sometimes there's like a output control showing that, hey, I there's like 10 line that I put it in and I insert or process the 10 transaction. Here's the total amount from those 10 transaction that I got coming in, and those are the 10 transaction and total amount that is now in the production. So there's like some type of input output control they monitor. And then the output distribution, sometimes there's some job that actually output and distributed to multiple distribution lists. So the day-to-day IT operations team also make sure that in the event that output a job need to be delivered after running to different distribution lists, it actually get sent it out to the distribution lists. They also kind of managing the backup and recovery. So a lot of time in the past, of course, the backup and recovery is more on the tape, manual, had to put it in, take it out. You had to managing to make sure like, you send the backup tape to offsite facility, and then you have it come back, rotate maybe a week, a month, depending on the type of backup. A lot of time nowadays, the backup and recovery are all done through cloud environment. So your backup data is all in a different cloud, a different cluster. So most of them are moving away from the actual tape. Just is more reliable. You can get to it a lot faster. Disaster recovery plans. So those IT operations, because they are the one who keep the day-to-day the light on, they are the one also own the disaster recovery plan. They will kind of make sure that from the technology perspective, in the event there's a disruption, outages, how can we bring all the equipment, all the server back to normal? So they own the disaster recovery plan. Business continuity or continuity planning. So business continuity is very focused on just the IT operation. Do they have the right resources to bring the disaster up and running? Do they have a process to bring those back up? So the business continuity here is focused more just IT operations team, IT operations process. Okay. So here, we also look at the IT technical support services. So this is like including like the help desk, operational system support. So in the event that, there's any issue, who to call, right? They're the technical people who focus more on there could be people specializing network, certain people specialize in the operating system. Nowadays, a lot of the operating system are on the cloud virtual environment. So a lot of the technical support around the virtual desktop, virtual server, virtual cluster, all around virtual, right? Network, we talk about the, the whole, the router, the switch, the, the local network versus wide area network. If you have multiple location, how do each of those location communicate? So the network support, technical support will be able to support that. There's also technical database support, right? So if you have various different application and those application feed into use different database, if you have a data warehouse that feeding all the data from different sources into this data warehouse, so a database technical support will help ensuring that in the event you need the data or you have issue or question about those data, the technical database support will help you, right? If you need to restore a table or running certain special job, the technical database support will be able to help. Where support is mainly the equipment, right? So dealing with like more like the server. So if you have issue with one of your server, you can contact the hardware support. Okay. A lot of time, if you have issue with your laptop, your desktop, the technical support you call is the help desk. Okay, they always the first tier support to end users. Okay, so a lot of time when we're auditing the technical support area, things that we're looking for is, hey, some type of balance scorecard. How do they measure how well they're performing? So those can be done through user satisfaction survey. So a lot of time if you guys call a help desk after you're being helped, you're being sent to a survey. How well did I perform? Did I answer your question? How useful is my response? So those survey kind of help to monitor and measure how well the support team is providing services. Training, right? We want to know like what type of training we're providing to those technical support. Like Sean say, for us to be on top of technology, we have to make sure we send those technical support personnel to special training year over year, right? It's not something like, hey, I'm very good at cloud, Microsoft Azure. I'm very good at it. I don't need any more training. No, the technology change so frequently that if you don't send your technical support to those required training, they're gonna be obsolete, right? So you want to see like, are there any training provided to your technical support team? Service level agreement metrics. So sometimes like you have some type of SLA you establish, right? You're saying that for every single customer call, I need to pick it up within 5 seconds. For every single call, I need to be able to respond and provide the answer within the first try. Things like that. So you need to have a SLA to help ensure that there's a good user satisfaction. User satisfied with the support and services. And then the system availability, downtime, uptime. So a lot of time, as we talk about the word technical support, right? So we can managing or we can monitor performance on how well is the system being available. Is the system available 99.99% or the system is always down? So those kind of help us use to understand and monitor the performance. So when we conduct the audit, again, things that we're looking for is like, um, are there is the user satisfaction user survey being leveraged or used to measure how well the support team is providing the support? Are there any technical training provided to those technical team? Is the SLA established what it is? And once it's established, do they monitor? And how frequent do they report the SLA to who, right? And then you want to see does management monitor system availability, downtime, uptime, things like that. So this is all around technical support management. And then, of course, sometimes that we want to outsource, right? So even within the outsource, when we conduct an audit around outsourcing function, we want to see, um, remember when we outsource a function, we can outsource the function, but we cannot outsource the responsibility. Okay, so management is still accountable and responsible for that process, regardless they use internal resource or they outsource to a third party. Okay, so here, the outsourcing function could include like you outsource your system analysis, design, and programming. So you outsource all the SDLC, all the development job or development work to a third party. You can do that, but again, when we do outsourcing function, we need to understand what are the function being outsourced. Once it's outsourced, is there a control in place to managing the third party's performance, right? There could be like a lot of small mid-sized company actually typically would be outsourcing their payroll, right? So a lot of time you want to have your business concentrate on what they're good at, what are they making money on, and back end stuff such as like payroll, that's not what they in business for. So why not just like pay a payroll specialty third party to processing the payroll for them. So a lot of smaller company typically would do that. So payroll is one of the function that we typically see. Again, like we talked about earlier, you can outsource the function, but you cannot outsource the roles and responsibility. So you need to have a control in place to monitor the third party on how they processing payroll, how do they processing exception, uh, do they process the payroll on time, things like that. Data capture or transformation prior to processing. So whenever you have a outsourcing, sometimes you want to add in additional feature, additional security by storing the data, capturing the data first prior to send it out and processing it. So at least you have a copy of it. Operation of the IT facility. So a lot of time, this is another areas that typically will be outsourced to a third party. Um, a lot of time, especially from the hosting perspective, you probably don't want to invest money on finding a facility, and the facility had to have proper physical security, environmental control in place. So you say, well, instead of me building my IT facility and adding all those control, which is cost millions, right? I can just like go and outsource that to a third party, and I will be just renting a space from them. I just get a cage. So I just need to managing the the cage, the server inside that cage, but all the physical security into that facility, all the environmental control to that facility is going to be outsourced to that third party. Okay, so outsourcing function. Uh, Again, we talk about cloud computing more and more. We see a lot of companies are moving to cloud. So when we do the audit, typically we want to see that is there a cloud computing policy in place? Do they have a roadmap and a framework? Do they know what they being stored in the cloud? Is that a private cloud? Where you are is still managing everything, or is it a public cloud where you share the environment? Within the public cloud, they also talk about single tenant versus multi-tenant. A single tenant, you have your own dedicated space, your database, your environment, versus multi-tenant, you might be sharing the same space, the same server, things like that. And when you look at the beauty about cloud computing is that you grow, you don't have to worry about adding additional server. You don't have to worry about your data center running out of the space. You use it as a service, so you just buy additional space from the cloud provider. So it's a lot more, it's a lot cheaper, more efficient, but at the same time, security component you just need to look out. So when you conduct a cloud computing audit, things that you need to consider is definitely security, and is the cloud um, policy in place? Is the inventory what is in the cloud? Things like that. Okay, and then from the overall IT organization structure and function perspective, do you look at from the overall IT management? Um, you look at the system support and operations. Is there is it in-house? Is it outsourced? What are the service level performance agreement we have in place? How do we monitor the IT system support and IT operations? Um, System support could be, making sure that when you have issue with the system, the application, how you support those business unit using those systems. IT operations is making sure we went through it earlier, the keeping the light on. Application system development, all system and applications. I think we went through the SDLC. We also went through the project management. So those are different management processes around application system development. And then there's general management, you look to see that, is there leadership, uh, is there roles and responsibility clearly defined? Is the resources sufficient? Do they have proper experience and skill set on the key role, key positions? Those resources on those key positions, do they have the proper skill and experience managing their job, perform their job? Okay, I'm going to pause here to see any questions so far. Okay, anybody? Nobody on the waiting room, right? Okay, let's continue. So again, this is kind of an overview of IT management. They break it out typically into three main area: operational, system development, and general management. So within the operational, you can look at the, end user acceptance or performance level. So those are some of the areas that you can look for when you look at operational management. Looking at the is there a budget? Do they do a actual to budget comparison, right? Earlier we talked about the IT budget and the frequency of the hardware software problem. So is there a way to measure the end of life? Certain hardware or software, if the hardware constantly having issues, is it time to replace it? So we want to make sure that there, from the operational perspective, there's like some type of issue log tracking the hardware software issues, so that they will be able to use to determine if we need to replace those hardware software or not. Is there a acceptability of computer response time? So do we have a uptime defined? Is it 99.95 is sufficient or and acceptable, or is it had to be 99.99? So again, a lot of time when you look at the acceptability of computer response time, you also look at how critical this system is. If this is a online um, purchasing system, you probably want to make sure it's 100%, because every single downtime that you have, you might potentially lose customer, right? Or lose that opportunity to make that transaction. Um, frequency of unauthorized purchase of hardware and software. So again, you want to see like, are those hardware, software purchase go through your normal channel? Is it all approved? Because you want to make sure that one is that you need to control your asset. You need to understand what type of hardware you have, how many you have, and what are the software you have, so that you can not only managing the risk of introducing, make sure that there's no unauthorized hardware, software in your environment. You also need to managing from the end of life, end of support perspective. So if you don't have if you have unauthorized purchase of hardware, software, then most likely it did not go into your IT asset management system. So you don't have a proper monitoring and tracking of the end of life, end of support, things like that. Frequency of upgraded of hardware and software. Again, I think we talk about tracking those how frequent those hardware, software being upgraded, and any type of issue they have. It kind of help managing the performance. Um, Degree of capacity planning. So obviously we want to make sure that we don't want to have the system run at 100% capacity all the time, because it's very risky. It will become unavailable. So, right. So you need to make sure that for the operational perspective, management has a process in place to monitor the capacity and do capacity planning. So i.e. they could say that for the hard drive space, we want to make sure that it's always 70%. Anytime it go over 70%, we need to add additional disk space, or even the network traffic, things like that. So capacity planning on multiple places, we just need to see if there's a process in place. Adequacy of business continuity planning. So again, we talk about IT operations. They're the one who own the disaster recovery plan, making sure that from the technology perspective, we can bring the system back to normal. And then from the business continuity perspective, they have a plan to address the resource and the process, how to bring who will be there to help bring the system up, and what's the process, which system we need to bring it up first. How do we communicate to the team member? Who's the primary key contact, things like that. So those are all in your business continuity planning. Um, for the system development perspective, things that we look out for again is the cost and budget comparison, to make sure that, in the event that it run out of the budget, we need to submit the change request, and don't wait until the project, is already over the budget. Then you go get approval or forgiveness. That you want to make sure that you get your approval prior to the budget will be over. um, Achievement of the deadline. So again, a very important thing is to remember we talk about scope. You have to have the scope clearly documented, and anytime when it go over the scope, you want to have a change request to assess the impact to the schedule, right? Sometimes like uh, the deadline could be impacted by whatever the risk. So you want to make sure you monitor that. Achievement of end user objective. So here we talk about the QA and hold on. So you want to make sure that you have like, a user satisfactory survey built into the project life cycle, to make sure that you gather the feedback, making sure that the end user objective has been met. You do a post-mortem review once the project is implemented. And then you want to have some type of, performance indicator to understand how many project that uncompleted development project, meaning that the project is either go over time, um, quality is bad, over the budget, things like that, so that you can kind of like, build into your lessons learned and then improve your your process. So those are the things that you're typically looking for when you're auditing the system development um, processes. From a general management perspective, when you go audit a IT organization, this is just general. You look for like, do they have an OCHR? Uh, do they train their staff? Is the staff like on those key role? Are they experienced? Are they qualified to perform those tasks? What is the staff turnover, right? If you have a high staff turnover rate, so you want to understand, is there a reason behind that so that you can take action, or you know you want to see if management monitoring those and what action management taken to remediate that. Because when you have a high turnover rate, then it kind of indicated that either staff is not happy, they're not getting the training, they're not getting the support they needed, or maybe the company's under. There's multiple reasons why, but for you to address the issue, you have to be aware of the issue first. So you want to see if management tracking the staff turnover as a KPI, and do they monitoring those, and do they take action on it when do they have a threshold, like if it's over a certain threshold they take action, and what are the action they will be taking. Staff motivation, you want to see, within the general management area, are they again, training is one way to motivate people too. um, Team bonding, team activities, um, staff appreciation. So those are all like motivation type of activities. Reliance and key individual. So here we want to see that, you know, is there a single key person risk? Meaning that, do they have a person that is very specialized in certain tasks, and that person is the only person who know how to do it. So you want to see that, uh, you know, uh, is the people within the IT management team cross-trained, or do they truly rely on just one person? So those are the general type of things that you typically look for when you do the general um, management process audit. Okay. So we went through management. We kind of go through some of the processes that you typically see from the IT management perspective. Are there any questions?
Just confirm, you will upload this on Canvas, correct?
Yes, I will upload the deck and also the recording. Good question. Any other question? Okay. Let's do one more module and then we can finish the rest next week. The next one is all around the strategy planning, right? So why is it important for us when we audit to see if IT have a strategy planning in place or not? The reason is because we want to make sure that there's the IT strategy, IT kind of have a plan, a short-term, a 2 to 5 year strategy plan, so that IT can know what they need to work on, like what are their goal, and we want to make sure that the strategy plan, what they want to do is supporting the higher level, the overall organizational strategy goal, right? So typically when you're auditing, you're asking, hey, do you have a strategy plan in place? Is your strategy plan being reviewed and updated annually? Um, who do you present your strategy plan to? Um, a lot of time, this IT strategy plan is being reviewed and approved by the IT steering committee. So again, you want to see, is the plan in place? Um, some if you look at it, right, some of the IT delivery system that meet the business objective, is like, does it fully align? So does the IT goal support and align with the business goal? Is the IT strategy plan, is it flexible, right? So a lot of time that's why they have a 2 to 3 years plan or 2 to 5 years plan if you want to do a little bit longer term. Doesn't matter you do 2 to 3 years or 2 to 5 years, your IT strategy plan you typically want to see IT strategy plan being refreshed annually. Um, from the quality perspective, again, you kind of like looking to see that, are there any type of goal defined clearly in the plan, and do they have like defined action item, the activities that can help meeting the goal? um, is the plan and the goal, is it reasonable, reliable, is it cost effective? So this is just like the initial things that you're asking. Hey, is there IT strategy plan in place? Is it being reviewed and approved by some type of committee? And then you look to see, hey, um, you also kind of do your collaborative inquiry with management to understand if they truly, what their plan is, what their goal, what they're working on is consistent with what they have in the plan. You might have a fancy plan, but management doing something totally different. Then, you know, it's not aligned with what the plan has, right? So you want to kind of talk to, head of IT, the CIO, the CISO, things like that, to kind of get some understanding that the strategy plan, uh, the goal documented in the strategy plan, in the management working on those goals. Um, you want to make sure that you know, you also kind of want to understand that within those the activities that define to support those goal, you know, do they call it out the detailed activities, the process? Yeah. Let's go through one more management issue. So obviously, like the strategy plan, kind of like, do they have a strategy plan in place? Does it get approved by a committee? The strategy plan, typically in there, including the goal, the detailed activities supporting those goal, and you want to do inquiry to understand if management actually, you know performing some of those goals as outlined in the strategy plan. So here is the management issues. So you want to understand that, hey, is there an issue management system in place? Does management track all the issues that they have? Some of the issue including like intellectual property on cyberspace, right? So depending on the type of organization, type of business, there could be like, IP infringement issue that we have. You know, it could be the who own those what product. So those are all intellectual property related issue, trademark, you know, copyright, patent, ethical issue, right to privacy, implementation of effective IT governance. So uh, those are all some of the things to consider or things to look out for in the management issue log. So when we do the audit, we typically just asking management, hey, do you have a process in place to managing all your issue? Is it documented in some type of centralized place? How does those issues being reported and communicated to management? Here, I think is some example here. Uh, there's like cyber fraud, cyber security related type of issue. So how are those issue being communicated and centralized into the issue management system? um, from the cyber fraud, cybersecurity perspective, things that, the in the issue log that we want to track is like, is there any type of uh, fraudulent type of identity that is being identified by information security team? Are there any type of you know incidents where there's like information being intercepted through the internet? So those are more like things that identified by either information security, and a lot of time it's also they call it the SOC, Security Operating Center. Those people that monitor the 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 internet. Um, they could be one of the source that providing issues. So like going to the issue management system, your infosec team that constantly monitoring all the traffic, all the incidents within your network. They are another source into your issue management. Um, you know, there's also the type of crime. So this is the type of cyber related type of issue or incidents, identity theft, right? So a lot of time your infosec team might detect like, hey, somebody using fraudulent email, or somebody's phishing, doing the phishing attack. Phishing is the next one, right? Ransomware. Do you scan and identify some type of ransomware that included in one of the attachment, your email attachment, things like that? So those could be things that need to be reported. False rumor for financial gain. So this is where we talk about the uh, some bad actors trying to you know, penetrate into the system for financial gain. Um, are there like fraudulent transaction or fraudulent data, right? Um, data or security breach. So those are all example or issues that should be tracked in your issue management system. So like you have a way to report and monitor the number of the cyber related incident issue that you have within your environment. And then there is also the violation of data privacy. So you want to track when your personal information is being being taken out or being exfiltrated by a bad actor. So some of the personal information, PI information, including your first name and last name, just those two together is your personal information. Residential mailing address, the web cookie, email address, your personal email address, your personal telephone number, biometric data. Those are all considered like personal information. The sensitive personal information, now we call it NPI, right? Non, uh, uh, it is it's the information that's specific to you, that can identify an individual. So very sensitive information, including the health record, right? Your HIPAA, your health information data, your credit card information, your bank account, your social security. Those are all considered as sensitive information. So from the copyright, trademark, patent, issue violation perspective, things that included or should be tracked in your issue management, including like illegal reproduction and distribution of the protected material. So a lot of time, you want to monitor and track when there is like fraudulent type of your website, fraudulent type of your web application, people using or pretend to be um, you creating fraudulent website, right? So things like that you want to track and you want to monitor and you want to make sure you take action on it. It could be cryptography, your key, your crypto key, um, and then you could look at the you know all those things that can protect the you know the fraudulent website, fraudulent web application, fraudulent mobile uh, app. things that can help protect is including like digital signature, crypto key to make sure like you know, you you put a seal around the website like you publish. Effective access control can help prevent some of those as well. So you don't allow, everybody to um, make changes to your website and your IP addresses, things like that. You're very protective. Uh, Most of the access management nowadays is started out with zero trust. So in the past, a lot of time you kind of open up and you limit, you restrict access once what need to be restricted, versus nowadays because of the cybercrime, cybersecurity, everything started out with zero trust. So you don't have any permission. Anything you want, any permission you want, you need to request for that. So that's called zero trust versus in the past, it's more like you open up for everything and then you only decline, block, once you know things that you don't want to allow. Okay. So obviously, a lot of time when we look at management processes, we also kind of think about, what are some of the code of conduct, code of ethic, right? So a lot of time, honesty, integrity, you know, all these like things that is like component within a code of conduct that we typically see. And why business ethic or code of conduct is important is because we need to make sure that there is a code of conduct in place so that the management and the employee can follow that, right? So obviously, if you look at it, IT governance is to ensure that the business ethic and behavior is in place. We talk about like put all the different management processes, issue management in place to monitor. So a code of conduct is in place to ensure that employee are following the rule, your code of conduct. So um, all those are IT governance, IT processes. So those will help ensuring that there's a right behavior and ethic in a work environment, um, and making sure that there's proper management conduct. Um, so there's clearly defined organizational intention, mission, goals, and objective. So again, those are all in the code of conduct so that we make sure that people understand and can follow through. So a lot of the IT governance, if we look at it, what we have covered is setting up the strategy. We talk about the IT strategy plan, making sure that there's a plan in place, and the plan is either 2 to 3 years or 2 to 5 years, but the plan should be reviewed and reapproved annually. Managing the risk, right? IT governance, IT processes, IT management that we just went through, kind of help making sure that we're aware of all those different type of risks, and then there's an issue management in place. Uh, Again, we talk about if you don't know the issue, the risk, then you cannot managing it. So you have to make sure that you're aware of it, reporting it, then you can start allocate resource and control to managing those risks. Um, Delivering perceived value. So again, based on your strategy, based on the goals that you set up and activity underneath it, you kind of like, once you deliver and meeting those goals, you're delivering the value, because a lot of times your strategies align with the business strategy, business goal, right? And then IT governance, obviously, we talk about like the performance tracking, survey, things like that. So those are all kind of help ensuring that we have a way to monitor and track the performance. So IT governance responsibility at the end of the day is the board of the director. The board is responsible for IT risk, IT governance. And a lot of time they delegate those responsibility to executive management, i.e., the IT steering committee. And from those committee, they are committee just providing that oversight, right, on behalf of the board. But management, the day-to-day operations is all relying on management team. So at the end of the day, the board director delegate those day-to-day management or IT governance to management team. Okay. Any question there? Okay. Okay. If not, we can stop over here. We will pick up the IT governance related tools and framework next week, and then we're gonna go through next week. We're gonna be going through a let me see, the change management audit program. So we're gonna go through that in the sample of the change management audit program, how it looks like, and then we're gonna go through some of the sample test questions that you typically will see in the CISA exam. Okay. Any question? And again, we do have another guest speaker next week. Again, if you have any questions, please just ask, or you can put it in the Q&A session. I'm happy to ask for you. Again, you know, think about what you want to ask the speaker. This is a great opportunity for you to connect, network, and build a relationship so that they can remember you too.
So next week we're going to be talking about change management.
Yes. So we're
Okay.
gonna go through the change management audit program, but
Okay.
we're gonna be continue with covering the remaining of the section 2, which is like the IT governance related tool and framework,
Mhm.
and um, this is all framework and the technique. So those are the two remaining sections that we're going to cover. Then we're going to change management audit program and some of the sample questions related to IT governance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome.
Professor, which firm is coming next week?
I had to take a look. Let me see. The guest speaker for next week. Let me see. Hold on. Okay. Then next week, our guest speaker next week, I believe, will be Mike Villegas. He is one of the jack of the trade. He has been doing IT auditing even before my time. Okay, when I started with KPMG, I'm the first tier that do IT audit in KPMG. He is even before me. He's with Audit Edison. Anderson is no longer in place. So he will kind of go through the fundamental of IT auditing. He will go through like the IT audit career. He is a partner from the big four, a big A, I think, before Big 12 in the past when in his time. So he was a partner. He's a CISO for Wells Fargo. He is a PCI assessor, so credit card assessor, and he runs certain security company things like he's a jack of all trade. So please bring question you have. I'm sure that you're gonna find it very very beneficial for your career when you talk to him.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me stop recording.
Professor, I had a quick question. When it says public accounting, are we talking about like government entities?
Very good question. Public accounting firm is one of those like big four now. So what they do is like they are the one who auditing the publicly traded company. So
Okay.
for any company that want to issue stock, right? That publicly traded, they have to be audited by one of the by an independent auditing firm.
Okay.
So the big four left right now is KPMG. There's Pricewaterhouse, PwC. There's Deloitte, and then there's E&Y.
Very cool. Thank you. Second question, and I'll just basically plant the seed, is really, I guess, really more of a statement. I'd be curious to know more about maybe your experience with IT auditing as it pertains to government entities and organizations. So, food for thought throughout this course.
Sure, absolutely. I'm happy. Maybe next you know what? You start ask a question to Mike, and then I will add to whatever Mike did not respond. I will share with my view as well. So let's
Okay,
ask Mike first, and then I will share my view
cool.
as well next week.
And then I can always throw it in Canvas under the Q&A. So thank you.
Okay, good. I'm
I
glad
was
to
just
hear
like,
that.
oh, we have that resource, might as well use it.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, let me stop recording. Yeah, and the file is gonna be huge. Okay, anything else?
Hello, Professor.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Have a good night, and I will talk to you guys next week.
Hello, Professor. Oh,
Go ahead, Chen. You
is
can
there
stay if you have questions.
is there more resources we can access to do our project for the auditing, or is it we just need to research it ourselves, or
Yeah. So the audit program, you have to research it, but I show you where to look for it already. But if you want to see some example of how it looks like from other classmates, I'm happy to share some of those with you. So just like, we can have a one-on-one, or we
Yeah.
can wait until one of the session after class or something.
because I was planning to take a look at the project, and I was just wondering. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Mhm.
Have a great rest of your night, Professor.
Good night. Thank you.